So you like everything that Donald Trump says? You think everything he says is popular?
I love a lot of the things he says. I think he's hilarious. When he said big water, that was one of my favorite quotes. Big water.
Water, big water, ocean water.
He has the funniest one-liners, so I love a lot of the things he says. As far as policy, he sucks, but...
I'm just shocked you're wearing a Hunter Biden hat. He likes a different kind of one line.
Oh, I know, conservatives love talking about his...
No, Coke. It's different. Coke, not...
What is good, YouTube family? It's your boy Rashad with the Black Anomaly Rising channel. So I'm going to be reacting to this video. This video is a little aged. Black conservatives versus white liberals. I've never actually seen all of this video. I've already seen some parts of it, but I'm curious to go ahead and give my full reaction to it. I'm not going to have the whole thing. I mean, the video is like 40 minutes long, so I'm going to like chop it up into like the parts that I guess I feel like are the most relevant parts. So without further ado, let's get into it.
I was chosen to read the following prompt. White Americans have way more advantages than Black Americans.
I think I'm a rarity here.
It would seem so.
Do white Americans have more advantages because they're white, or do just white Americans have advantages because of historic factors? I think that people want to argue at the end of the day over whether it's because you're white or not. I think that the answer is because you're white in the past, and that's how it kind of carries over to today. You know, even in times of the United States history where black people have tried to build wealth, you know, with the Tulsa riots and everything, where, yeah, that this wealth has been destroyed. And something that's upsetting to me is when conservatives talk about how we can't blame the past for what's happening in the present. That is true to some extent, but then in the next breath, they'll talk about how important it is to have dual-parent households, how important it is to have a strong family, to have responsibility passed on from parent to child. And we've seen in the past that because of racial issues, that process has been severely disrupted.
The funny thing is that agreeing with all these things is when I did my research when I was younger, which arrived me to my standpoint of being a conservative, because I believed it was racist, Democrat, liberal ideologies and policies dating all the way back to the 1800s, all the way up to the 1960s, and then the purported big switch. But I think it was more so when Democrats decided to be a bit more cloak and dagger about their true opinions of black people and be more secretive and more, oh, we want to help you by, you know, doing these things and seeing them as inferior.
Doing what things?
Affirmative action, welfare, all sorts of things that eventually ruin our culture and places where we are now.
So
but I want to get back to the history of it, because we're talking about...
Well, I just want to make sure we're clear. Giving them money hurt them, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, giving them, because if your father's out of the home, that's when we give you the money. If you're living in this housing,
so then give them the money while the dad's
rent-free,
well, then give them the money while the dad's in the home.
If you're working this amount of hours and getting less than this amount of dollars, you're getting money from the government.
Yes,
it is incentivizing.
You're throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
I don't even know what that means in this scenario, because yes,
you're
okay, you want to talk about throwing babies out with the bathwater? Margaret
for
Sanger wanted to exterminate the black race because she thought they were weeds. So yeah, we can literally talk about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's what Margaret Sanger, that's what Democrat policies wanted to do to my people. So that's why I feel so strongly about it, because it is these policies that date back centuries that were built off of the death and poverty of my people.
Let's take a breath.
Sure. I'm breathing.
Okay.
It's a lot of
I mean, look, I ain't gonna cap. I mean, this dude is already kind of going off. This man, Chandler didn't come to play. Y'all not about to mess with Chandler. Okay, look, Alec need to go sit down somewhere. No, I'm kidding. I mean, they haven't really got to like too deep into the issues yet, but you could kind of see like, you know, Alec is trying to, I guess, poke some holes, but the argument hadn't even really been, at least at the time, hadn't really been made yet. So I think the idea starts off good, right? The idea is, okay, you got these black single moms, they need help, let's give them some money. So the idea starts off good, but then inevitably, unfortunately, these types of things always tend to get perverted into, well, now is such a benefit to be a single mom, then that's what I'm going to pursue rather than pursuing a family. You see what I'm saying? It becomes more of that is the rule rather than the exception. You see what I'm saying? Like, in general, families should be promoted. Families should be rewarded, because we know that in general, statistically, it leads to the best outcomes for the children that's inevitably involved, right?
Babies aren't, but I am, sadly.
I don't know what that means. When I say throw the baby out with the bathwater, you want to completely get rid of welfare, okay? Or at least I don't want to put that on you, you haven't said that, but the conservative apparatus does, clearly. So giving money to a group of people does not hurt them.
I mean, sure, if you're talking about a lottery, just hey, take money. But
yes.
there are strings attached to that money.
Take all the money.
There are strings attached to that money.
Give them millions. Make them all millionaires. I don't care. Giving money to black people does not hurt them.
And that has
thinking
not
that-
happened, though. That has not happened.
What do you mean?
That has not happened.
It
hasn't been a
You're saying
reparations. It hasn't been this
so
or that.
what
It has
you're
been
saying,
a welfare program,
welfare
Great
was
Societies
designed.
Act that
Welfare
was built
was-
off of the idea of, hey, we get these families split up, we get these
So
people
then let
living
them
here.
keep the family together and keep all the money.
I mean,
There you go.
I guess
Boom,
so,
done.
but I guarantee you,
I guess
there is
so.
no way that
Why
would
would you
happen.
not advocate for that?
So, in your, I guess, research of like history of this country and everything, do you?
So hold on, I'm gonna pause it right there for a second. So here's the first thing. So Democrats have had a supermajority in Congress numerous times before, and for those who don't know, Congress controls the money, at least a lot of it, and they do have the ability to provide reparations. They've never done it. So all the times when they say that they're going to do stuff like reparations and they never do it, then they turn around and blame Republicans. They never attempt to do it. If you have supermajority, you don't have to have Republican votes. You pretty much get whatever the hell you want. So whenever they don't do that and they blame Republicans, Democrats are being full of shit. I want y'all to remember that.
Find like the Reconstruction era and like the failures of like what it.
They just for clarity, they just say whatever they think is going to get them votes. Okay, if they think saying, "Hey, we're gonna get you reparations," is gonna get us votes, then they're gonna say it, get elected, and then not do a damn thing. That's why I don't support the Democrats right now. At least that's one.
I guess
There's
so.
no way that
Why
would
would you
happen.
not advocate for that?
So guys, I'm inserting this audio clip after the fact as well because I wanted to make sure I pointed this out. So technically, giving money away to anyone just for like out of the blue, it actually does hurt them because, for example, you see the situation we're in now with all the inflation. A lot of this inflation was caused by a lot of the money that was given out during COVID. So essentially, you put yourself in a position where you give black people a bunch of money all at once. Let's say it was all at once, right? It doesn't matter that much if it's all at once or if it's gradual over time. It still kind of leads to the same thing. But inevitably what happens is you start to have additional inflation. Then when that money runs out, black people income hasn't really increased or anything. Now the standard is still higher and the expectation is you still got to pay for higher bills, be it rent, groceries, whatever. And meanwhile, your income level is still the same. So yes, reparations can literally hurt black people.
So in your, I guess, research of like history of this country and everything, do you find like the Reconstruction era and like the failures of like what it wanted to be and then what it ended up being, and then which led into had downstream effects to enter into the Jim Crow era, and you have policies like redlining that influence how schools are funded. The downstream effects of slavery, do you think put black people as generally in a worse off position than white Americans?
I think generation by generation, the effects of slavery have been diluted, but generation by generation, the effects of racism, welfare-based policies, and things of that nature became even more great. So in the 1880s or so, when we had our first black members of Congress, which were indeed Republicans, I think that was a great start for things. But obviously, we had terrible things that happened, like the Tulsa massacre, among black people being chased out of their homes by the KKK.
Sure.
All funded by the Democrat Party, all supported by the Democrat
Okay,
Party.
well, I need to stop you there. Can you attribute not to the party but to the ideology? Because I think when you think, regardless of whatever the party switch was, traditionally conservative values did not that's more aligned with more racist policies
It's
in this
very
country.
difficult to compare 2020's conservatism to 1880s conservatism.
Yeah, I've done some research on the parties. I definitely don't know everything, but I mean the party shifts over time. I'm gonna put it this way. In my opinion, it's almost impossible to directly say. So if somebody says like, "Oh, here's exactly how the Republicans were. Here's exactly how the Democrats were," like just based off of what you've seen over the last couple of years, what a Democrat is in 2023, or at least a Democrat politician in 2023, is vastly different from a Democrat back in like the Obama era, the freaking 2008, the 2012, vastly different. So I will definitely say you can't really say for sure, like, okay, this party was a racist party, like, and the other party wasn't. I mean, the one thing I will say is I believe both parties was racist because it just seemed like there was like some different ideologies in terms of the benefit. Like obviously if you were benefiting from a lot of slavery, then it made sense to keep it. So you're gonna want to keep benefiting from it. But if you already had systems in place where you weren't benefiting from slavery, then it just seems like, well, hey, these people are benefiting in a way that I'm not able to benefit from literal free labor. That's not fair to me, so maybe we should get rid of this. Like, if you can't even say it's necessarily about how inhumane slavery was in terms of why they got rid of it. I mean, I'm sure that's what it was for some people, but do we know that that's what it was for all people? I mean, we're never really gonna know.
So personally, I feel like there's really only one thing that white people have a true advantage over black people with, and it's that white people are less likely to be forced into a box. It happens with black people onto other black people, but it especially happens with white liberals onto black conservatives, where we are told that we are supposed to think a certain way, be a certain way, and if we're not, then we're called all these names like etc. And the worst of all is bootlicker, because I hate when a white liberal tells me as a black man that I'm a bootlicker, because then I ask, whose boot am I licking? Because you're telling me as a white person that me as a black person that I'm licking your boot because I don't think in this box that you want me to frame my mentality in. That to me is real racism. And that
So I'm gonna stop it right there because this is one of the biggest things I've dealt with. So I know a lot of people in my personal life, and all my like very liberal friends think I'm like some sort of hyper alt-right conservative. All my conservative friends think I'm like some sort of hyper super duper progressive liberal. So I pretty much don't really fit in nowhere. That's why I go the independent route, because basically a lot of folks are capping for their team like constantly. Like, so if Trump does something wrong or says something crazy as hell, you know, I don't support him. I don't support whatever he does, no matter what. Same thing for like Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden's just a freaking clown anyway. Like, this whole administration just kind of crazy. But like, I supported Obama, and I think Obama was way better than Joe Biden. Like, Joe Biden's like completely just terrible, right? So it's not like I just got this crazy bias against like the Democrats or the Republicans. Just the Democrats right now because they don't win. Totally, it's like they done went off a cliff. So I'm not following your ass off a cliff. I'm sorry. Matter of fact, I'm not sorry. You kiss my ass. But that's the thing that sucks about being black. You need to think a certain way. You need to talk a certain way. I done got crap for a long time about not talking black enough. You need to dress a certain way, act hood or something. Like, if you know what I'm saying. Like, a lot of these people on here, they wouldn't even fit into a lot of the traditional black community. I mean, dudes come with button-ups, like clean shaves and stuff. I mean, like, you're pretty much expected to be like sagging your pants and, you know, trying to be an aspiring rapper or NFL player or something. That's like the only things that a lot of people in the black community respect, is if you're like a hustler who's trying to be like a rapper or in the sports or something like that. If you're trying to be like well-educated, become some sort of investor, you know, do some of these things that I want to say like a lot of white folks and Indians and Asians and whatnot are good at in America, you're seen as like, you're othered. You're put into like, oh, you're not one of us anymore. You know, and when you become the more educated, you kind of start to realize that, hey, maybe a lot of these Democrat policies don't work. Here's how the government actually works. It's crazy how passionate people get about explaining to you how wrong they are. And they don't even understand the three branches of government, nothing about the Federal Reserve, like who controls what, like the kind of rock, paper, scissors nature of our government, how the local, state, and federal, like the differences between all of them. Actual policy, they don't actually look into policy. They just believe whatever the news media says. They don't actually read, like the policies are like public. You read them on the internet like immediately, like all the time. And you can see exactly what they have in them, but people don't do that. They just listen to whatever somebody says, and then the second that you say, "Hey, this sounds like the Democrats have a problem here, or the Democrats are being racist, or the Democrats are lying," then they're like, "Oh, you're a Tom, you're a Uncle Ruckus." You know, I personally haven't, like, nobody's ever called me a bootlicker before. This dude is right. That does sound extra insulting. I don't think nobody certainly would be bold enough to call me nothing like that to my face. I've never been called any of these things to my face, for the record. But bootlicker to me sounds like fighting words. I'm just put it that way.
That's what we need to stop allowing to happen to us, because black people are so quick now to not branch out and to have new ways of thinking or to go into careers like agriculture and these.
I want to mention something else too. With the black community, like just the level of like peer pressure that you have, like you got it from friends, family, acquaintances, you got it from television, like media influences and stuff, music. So if you don't fit into that bubble, I mean, you're getting influence from all sides, including other people that's not black. You're getting kind of pushed to, hey, be blacker, like be like this, because that's what it means to be black. Be this way, and if you're not, then it's like something's wrong with you. It's like what went wrong upstairs? Like what gears aren't connecting? You know, like were you raised by whites or something? You know, it's like it doesn't connect. And I think that this is a problem with black people. Obviously, if things aren't going the way that they need to go in your life, and you're black, and you blame it like on racism and all this stuff, it's like, okay, why would you keep taking the same approach as all the other black people if things aren't going none of y'all's way? I'm gonna put it this way. 99% of things in my life are going good. Okay? My life is good. It's great. As a matter of fact. Okay? So there's a reason for that. It's because I make the appropriate decisions to try to get things going good. That doesn't mean I always make the right decision, but in general, I'm not following this whole like, oh, it's the white folks' fault, it's the Republicans' fault, you know, and I'm gonna just be a victim all the time. I'm gonna be a damn winner up in here, okay? And any black person who sees this, any person who sees this period who has that mentality, who doesn't think that you're gonna win, you can, if you want it bad enough, work hard for it, you got it. Don't worry about all this racism stuff. All these people are gonna be out there regardless. It doesn't matter. You can still win. They still got the Oprahs of the world. You know, they still got the Morgan Freemans of the world. They still got all these unknown, unnamed black investors. You know what I'm saying? They got all kinds of people that's successful out here. You got people like me. I mean, this channel's not big, but trust me, I'm straight on the back end, so y'all ain't got to worry about me, okay? So any black person can be successful in America. You just have to make the appropriate moves, and you'll be good.
I've personally never experienced white people having way more privileges than me. Like, I'm sure you could find certain institutions where black people are treated differently, but in general, I don't think that I've missed out on anything because of being black. And if anything, it's given me more of a voice because people will want to hear what I say now because I'm black. So if anything.
Exactly. When is people going to acknowledge we're in 2023 now where everybody is woke as hell? Okay? People listen to black people all the time, man. People go out of their way. I could even tell, sometimes I could tell, like at work and stuff, that people will like go out of their way sometimes to be like less offensive as possible, less interruptive, make sure I get an opportunity to speak and stuff like that. I kind of like it better when it's not like that, honestly, because I want to just be treated like everybody else. I don't want no type of special treatment. I want people to be thinking about it, being extra cognizant, extra aware. I don't want nothing like that. I'm like, just treat me like everybody else.
If affirmative action accomplished its purpose, why do we still see the disparities that we do in the professional workplace? If you average white wealth and compare it to black wealth totals, white people as a whole have about 50 times greater wealth than black people as a whole per capita. So I just don't understand why you think affirmative action has accomplished its purpose. I don't see that.
Curious, why do you assume that just because there is a disparity means it's because of a racial issue?
What else would it be from?
I mean,
Upbringing, economic abilities,
Desire to
skills.
go, desire to.
I mean,
So
zip
it
code
was their
does
fault
play
then.
a lot. If you grow up in a neighborhood that experiences a lot of trauma, you're not as likely to do as well in school, which means you're.
Why did they grow up in a neighborhood that experiences a lot of trauma?
I mean, lots of people do.
Yes,
live in
but
a-
why specifically do more black people?
Government assistance programs.
Government assistance programs, like what?
Try redlining.
I mean, you can go into that if you'd like to, but let's take a
is
look
relevant.
at the Great Societies Act, which was created to kick black fathers out of the home and get black mothers on welfare assistance. These things aren't beneficial for economics. These things aren't beneficial for actually paving a way for success for black children and black families. I mean, reducing a 2-family household to a 1-family household isn't going to make them the richest man in the world. It isn't even going to get them out of high school. Nonetheless,
You mean
the ability
parent.
to even get to college.
You mean
Yeah,
two-parent?
the child, yes, but a 2-parent household
Yeah.
in comparison to a 1-parent household, that child is not going to be nearly as successful. That child is more disposed to being sent into prison by doing crimes or not doing very well in school. So how are they even supposed to get that, that wealth disparity shrunk?
look at look at this dude's face. This dude is in disbelief. He's like utter shock. He's like I can't believe what I'm hearing. This can't be true.
Something I think that this conversation illustrates is that affirmative action is literally the very end of the line of a lot of different parts of a person's life. And by that point, trying to rectify all of the inequities that have existed, to try to remedy any of that at the very end with affirmative action, it might just be too broad a brush. And maybe we'd be better served focusing on the earlier issues than trying to throw a kid who maybe can barely read at a 6th grade level into a college to hope that that's the thing that fixes the problem.
Exactly. This guy ain't he supposed to be one of the liberals? I mean, look, maybe he learned something today because look, the way to fix this is to promote strong family values, okay? In positive culture that promotes that you can be successful and to keep the families together. You got you a mom, you got you a dad, and you tell them that, hey, you can be successful. Here's how, right? Good education, so fix education systems in places where they're poor as hell. Stuff like that. Not just throw them in college at the end and watch them fail. Most of them, you know what I'm saying? You know how many people I've seen go to college and fail? And it was mostly the black people. I hate to say it, but it's true. It was mostly the black people who went to college and failed. At least where I went to school, I went to 2 different schools. And the people who wasn't doing good was the black people. It sucked, but it is what it is.
Problem at the end of the line.
I think affirmative action wasn't really supposed to send kids to Harvard that weren't prepared to go to Harvard. I think that's quite a myth, in fact. I think those that have the qualities to get to Harvard were, before affirmative action, were just completely overlooked. Clarence Thomas is the perfect example, regardless of what you think about him. He was able to get to Harvard because of affirmative action, because it focused on finding people that were just overlooked for those.
But things ended up changing. It morphed into something else. So what started out as a good program of giving all black people or people with a lesser chance or lesser opportunity, it started out as that, and then it morphed and I'm not sure who morphed it, but it morphed into, okay, so now we have to have one black, one Hispanic, one this, one that.
That's not how that works.
But hey, talk to the corporations, talk to the people who hire, talk to the board members who say we need to have a woman on the board, we need to have a black on the board, we need to have a Latina, a Latinx, whatever on the board. So it morphed from helping us into now
Tokenization.
yes. So you have to have one of this, one of that.
Well, when you start with a country where people only hire you if you're white, that's necessary. And I know that you said that it started good and then ended whatever. And I don't think that affirmative action was perfect by any measure, but we still see really, really bad inequality. So if you're going to get rid of affirmative action, what's the replacement?
Meritocracy.
There's no meritocracy in
Yes,
this
it
country. You look at Elon Musk, he's destroying Twitter. There's no meritocracy. That's ridiculous.
What the
First
hell?
thing I would about
What the hell does Elon? Did it just go over my head? What the hell does Elon Musk have to do with this?
I've heard him say he knows all the best black people. He has all the best black friends. I do support black people all the time. So sorry, that was a very bad impression, but
It was pretty
I don't
fast.
think Donald Trump wants bad things to happen to black people. So in that respect, I think he does support Black lives. But the other side of that is he's not really doing anything. He didn't do anything as president, certainly, to uplift black people.
the economy affects black people.
Yeah, I certainly disagree with that point. One of the biggest things I
What does he do for the
supported
economy?
personally, well, We'll get into that one later. One of the biggest things he did is he secured permanent funding for HBCUs, one of the largest increases we ever saw for HBCUs, personally done by his administration, among many other things. The First Step Act, which, you know, there's a lot of debate about whether it was really the best thing to do, but that was definitely a kiss of love to the black race. Freeing Alice Johnson for menial drug crimes she committed in the past that had her locked up. She did not get to see her family for years.
Yeah, but that's not like, okay, I did say I agree, but I agree in the sense that Donald Trump doesn't literally want bad things to happen to black people, like I think a lot of conservatives do. So I think that he just says the most yeah, I do think that. I think he says the things that will get him elected.
So he thinks that, I guess, conservatives want bad things to happen to black people. So I have not witnessed any conservatives saying like, hey, I want bad things to happen to you or your family. I don't even know where this sentiment necessarily comes from. It may be just the media. That's the only place I see it, is politicians and the media. Like out here in the real world where I can make my own personal assessment and I actually got to deal with these people going out shopping, going get my car fixed, like going to work. I mean, literally walking up and down the street. Like, I mean, nobody attacks me. You know, nobody sicks their dog on me. The cops don't come and beat me over the head. So I don't really know what the hell this guy's talking about.
So I don't think that he has any personal grudges against most people. He just says the most popular thing. So I think like Ron DeSantis would be somebody that I think actually wants black people to be hurt. So by that standard, yeah, Donald Trump supports Black lives by leaps and bounds.
You think Donald Trump says the most popular thing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Then why do so many people hate him?
He got elected as president.
He's the most hated dude in America.
Yeah.
He didn't win the popular vote neither time.
That's a liberal
That's what your
talking
side
point.
loves to say.
That's a liberal talking
I'm
point.
helping you here. I'm trying to see the logic in this. Obviously, he says things to be elected as a politician very similarly to how Joe Biden did, except Joe Biden actually has a history of racism.
If he said things that people didn't like, he wouldn't have been our president.
So you like everything that Donald Trump says? You think everything he says is popular?
I love a lot of the things he says. I think he's hilarious. When he said big water, that was one of my favorite quotes. Big water.
Water, big water, ocean water.
He has the funniest one-liners, so I love a lot of the things he says. As far as policy, he sucks, but...
I'm just shocked you're wearing a Hunter Biden hat. He likes a different kind of one line.
Oh, he's... I know, conservatives love talking about his...
No, Coke. It's different. Coke, not Coke. Yeah, America's unique because we have bent over backwards for decades now, putting minorities in a position of privilege. I feel like we have done so much to give back to the communities that were obviously wronged. And I agree with both of you. Like, had this happened a long time ago, I would understand it. If we had specific incidences that we could trace where people were just completely screwed over, I would respect it. But right now, I don't deserve a payment for something my great-great-great-great-grandparents went through, and I don't think that white people are responsible for paying that to me either.
I know we don't want to use the word virtue signaling, but it's sort of like a bribe for a vote in a way, at least in my opinion. In states like California, where they've been throwing around the idea of, oh, we want to pay out this much money to every black citizen in there.
Exactly. It's basically just a bribe. And the funny thing about it is, I want to say, like, a lot of people are just dumb for even, like, to me, it's just ridiculous to even really, truly support reparations, because basically you're voting for people, you're voting for people on a promise of a bribe. You're not even getting it. That's stupid. It's like if a hostage situation, they're like, hey, I'll give you the hostage if you give me the money. Instead of same time, right? Like, it's like, okay, here's the money. Then they're like, now I got the hostage and the money. Y'all seen that episode of Family Guy where Peter's with Lois's dad and he's trying to buy some pot, and like, I think the dad just takes and shoots the guy and takes the pot, and he's like, now we got the pot and the money. It's the same type of logic. Why would you vote for somebody and you don't got no guarantee of nothing? That's ridiculous. All right, guys, that's about all that I can fit into one video. So there you have it, black conservatives versus white liberals. Pretty interesting conversation. I definitely would be curious to see more stuff like this, or maybe even participate directly if that's possible. Maybe I'll be on the lookout for Jubilee. I'll leave a link in the description to this video for anybody who hasn't seen it. I'm Rashad with Black Anomaly Rising. I appreciate y'all watching. We out.